Speaking freedom, giving you the answers to be free. Be free.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's performance is about to begin.
Hey everybody, welcome to Speaking Freedom TV. Today's episode is Life of a Veteran, and I am your host, Dr. Kaci. And today we have Dr. Maria. Hey girl, hey.
Yay, I'm so happy to be here.
So Dr. Maria, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so I'm currently a fitness expert. I've been for 20 years, been currently in the last 10 years really moved more into menopause. So it's really my focus. So helping women become stronger, healthier, and happier in midlife.
That's great because listen, I'm 42 and I've been going through menopause for a couple years because I had a hysterectomy. And honey, these hot flashes, mood swings, and night sweats is no joke.
Yes, and that's why I'm in this business, because it's so hard for women and often they just don't understand what's happening. So talking about it and educating is so important.
Yeah, it really is, especially if you lose your resources, if you don't have any close relatives that are able to talk to you or easy to talk to, so where you can open up and, be vulnerable. So what branch of military did you serve in?
I was in the Air Force.
Really?
Yes. I was in for 7 years, so 98 to 2006.
And what job did you do in the Air Force?
I was in finance in the beginning, and then I moved over to personnel. So I finished my career in the logistics squadron at Vandenberg Air Force Base.
Man, you had a one of those relaxing old jobs, didn't you?
One of those very important supportive jobs, so people
very
can do their
important.
stuff. Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah.
finance, you always go see the pay person. That's your friend right there, because they gonna make sure you're good. You where you're supposed to be, all of your everything. We love you.
Exactly. Yes, and we worked at DFAS, so that's what was my first job, was at DFAS, and everybody that's in the military knows DFAS because that's where you get your paycheck. So we were very important in making sure people get their pay.
And what's your story behind joining the military? What made you go into the service?
I already had a bachelor's degree when I moved to the States. So I got married to an Army GI. And when I moved to the States, I worked for a college here in San Antonio. And I was looking to do something, and I wanted to get my master's degree. And I was surrounded by some recruiters, and I thought the Air Force would be great. I saw what the Army does, and I didn't want to go in the Army, but I want something a little not as hard. And I joined the Air Force, and that's, the recruiter convinced me because I didn't really have an idea of what I wanted to do. I wanted the experience, honestly. I wanted something new. I've always been like that, even to this day, something that's challenging that I don't know anything about. And so I ended up in finance. It wasn't something that I went in. Recruiters are really persuasive.
Yeah.
They needed people in that. And so I thought, I'll just do that. And it was great. So I loved my time in the military.
I must have joined at the wrong time because they needed warehouse workers when I went. I was like, I really want to be a nurse or something like that. And they was like, well, we got $20,000 if you would be a warehouse worker. I was like, and,
deal.
Right. Well, actually, I would have had to wait like 2 or 3 months to leave, and I wanted to leave right then because I didn't want to change my mind. And so instead, I took $2,000, and I was able to I graduated basic training on my birthday, and my first duty station ended up being Korea. So I was like, it wasn't that bad.
Wow, straight to Korea.
Yeah, that was my first duty station. It was interesting. If I would have known that I was going to end up in Kansas, I would have stayed in Korea longer.
Just don't ever know, right? That's the thing. I couldn't get out of Texas. It's just, I went through basic training here, then went to tech school in Texas, just down the road, and then was sent back to San Antonio for my first 4 years or so, and then had to go to OTS to get out of Texas and go somewhere else. So,
Oh my God, I would have been trying to get out of Texas too because I mean, it almost feels like it defeats the purpose of going to the military if you're gonna be in one place. I mean, the ideal, not everybody goes everywhere and not everybody wants to travel everywhere, but the ideal when you join the military, you're gonna at least touch down on one foreign land at least. So I would probably have been discouraged. I mean, although when you're in the moment, you just are there. But I would probably have been discouraged if I would have had to even stay in Kansas for longer than, necessary because it's, whew.
but it's just us. Sometimes it's not as glamorous. You don't get to go places. I was lucky enough that I grew up in Germany, so I came from a foreign country and I got to travel a lot before I joined the military. And I was already a full-grown person. I was 24 when I joined.
Okay.
Well, I say that because, as you know, plenty of people get in when they're 18. And
I
so I
joined
felt
at
like an old
17.
lady. Yeah. I was in there like, I've already lived half my life at this point. Yeah.
So, what was the what did you like most about your experience?
Meeting people, honestly, different people from different types of life. I'd never been, because we're surrounded by the people that we're surrounded with, and the military really forces you to see people and interact and have to work with people that disagree with what your beliefs are, that disagree with or that don't know the history that you have. It's really interesting to me because I love to learn about behavior and why people do things. And so that was really, really fascinating to be exposed to people that maybe in a normal life you would never even talk to, but you actually had to be a team and work together. And that's, I think, a little unique to the military. You just have to get together and do it because you all depend on each other, which in the civilian world, I think is very rare that you get into a company and you disagree with your coworkers, but you have to come together. In the military, I think it's I've really enjoyed that.
I think that like when you said that the immediate thought was if people in the world had to learn to work together despite their differences, despite what they believe, we would see a world that couldn't be overrun by the government, but a world that works one in hand with the government, because then even the officials would know how to work together for the greater good of everybody. And I think it takes away from the selfishness.
100%, because when you realize that you're just a person, just like anybody else, you're not more important than someone else in a scheme of humanity. It would fix a lot of problems if we all felt like, what is the greater good for everyone to be better? It doesn't matter what your race is, what your religious beliefs are, what your gender is. If we can agree that everybody has the same rights, then it would be just easier for everyone. It just everybody would be better off. But
the all of the degrees of separation, every time we get a new label, every time we get a new title for something, every time we try to pull everything apart and figure out who we are as individuals, it definitely takes away from the oneness in which we all live. We are all one on this planet at this point. If we don't get it together, the planet, is not looking good. Okay.
it's
what
not
was the
looking good.
what was the thing you like least about the military?
I really hated to have to pull other people's weight sometimes that just didn't want to pull their own. And let's say that, because there's plenty of people that just don't want to work and they get in the military because, they stay in the military because it is easy to stay in. You get your paycheck every 2 weeks. We've all seen it.
And
so
if
that's
somebody
always
don't work, then somebody like ourselves will end up picking up the slack.
Exactly. And that I hate the most because I do feel I'm a big believer in accountability, that everyone should, in a merit base, you should pull your own weight and not expect other people to do the work for you. And that bothers me in any part of life. Just when I see people and say, do you not want to do better? Do you not have that drive?
I think in our culture here, the biggest thing that changed, because I think that there was a time where everybody had drive, but then, and I hate to say this, but I say this every single time, the draft making people serve, not, it's not about serving the country. It's
Mhm.
not about none of the real bigger picture things, but the structure, being able to get that structure from being, from having to go and train. And I, especially when I think about other countries, I think every other country you have to join their military or something along those lines in order to, like, a rites of passage type thing. Like, that's a part of going into adulthood. So you see a lot of other countries with a lot more discipline because everybody has to go through a certain phase to get disciplinary practices and become structured. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I completely agree. I also think that, some countries like Germany has, you can do into, excuse me, you can go into the military or you can do civil service.
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
So you have to be part of society,
mhm.
better society, one way or another. And even if it's for a short amount of time, it does, you have
Help.
to like it, but you
Mhm,
still have to, you see what it does. And I
mhm.
think if more people were exposed to having to do something that is not for themselves,
Mhm.
it would hopefully get them to see that there's something else.
Right.
Because a lot of times, people grow up and kids grow up and they don't get that example from their parents or from
Mhm,
their
mhm.
wherever they grow up, and having that structure, like you were saying, or that exposure to a greater good of society itself, could be an eye-opening experience. So I
Yeah.
completely agree.
Especially when you say civil service, I always think about the regular, like, draft into the military, but anything that allows people to be provided
Mhm.
a baseline, because this would just be a baseline of structure, despite if whether you came from a good home or you didn't come from a good home. Everybody has this foundation of, this is the way we behave, this is the way we work at a team, and I think that that would take our country so much further. But if anybody ever see me talk about it should be a draft or something, they gonna be mad at me. I get cussed out a lot, especially, because I have different views than a lot of people that complain about how things used to be, but also complain about the necessary steps that you
Mhm.
have to do in order to make changes.
Yeah.
People want change, but they don't like the disruption of change actually happen, because change normally doesn't come just like butterflies and
Yeah.
rainbows. Change normally comes from disruption. You have to shake things up a little bit.
It comes from being uncomfortable,
Hmm.
and people don't want to be uncomfortable. So
And
it
people rest in what they're used to, even if what they're used to isn't useful.
Yes, 100%. And you see that more and more, that it's, but again, you have to have that drive. And if you're not instilled that drive or instilled those values, then
What was
you,
your biggest takeaway from the military, and why did you get out?
I think the biggest takeaway was, in line with what I said earlier, of just what it means to be part of a team and to come together regardless of what your background is and what your beliefs are. The teamwork, I think I still take into, it's still a value that I carry forward, and the leadership part of it all. It's just I've learned how to be a leader. I've learned what true leadership means. And I think even though I'm an entrepreneur and I work for myself, those that applies to everything else that you do, and how you respect people, how you treat people. And that I took from the military for sure. And I got out because so when I got out, they were trying to get rid of a lot of officers in the Air Force because there were just too many.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was an opportunity to get out before our time. I only had a year left in my commitment, but I didn't like where I was going. I was supposed to become the executive assistant to the commander, and I just didn't see myself being the personal assistant to somebody. I wanted bigger things. And I know that it
Mm-hmm.
would have been a big jump. Everybody kept saying, this is going to further your career. Everybody
Yeah.
wants to do that year with the commander because you could pick whatever you want afterwards.
I mean,
I know, but I just wanted something else. Like I was the fitness program manager for the base at the time, and I wanted to go into physical therapy. I wanted to help people, and I didn't see the long run of me becoming the exec and then maybe going higher in leadership, how that would help me
yeah. Mm-hmm.
take care of people the way that I wanted to take care of them. And so I took the opportunity to get out and finish my master's and get my PhD and further my education. And I don't regret it. I look back sometimes and I thought, oh, now I would have been retired. You know, I could have done it. Those things that you think about.
Right.
But my life took a path the way it is. I look back and it's just the way it's supposed to be because I really think that I'm where I need to be now.
That's good. I could see where, of course, being next to the commander would definitely propel your stratosphere in the military. Whether it be just going in line for, some upper echelon position. But if that is not your goal, if your goal is not 20 years in the military, or to become a certain rank or to be viewed a certain way, then your purpose will definitely outweigh the payments or the thing that other people are probably like, you're crazy. And whole time you're being purposeful. And some people would never understand what it's like to be purposeful.
Yes. And again, if I would have stayed in, my career would have gone straight up. I know that it would have gone. I could have made a lot of money. I could have made a lot of connections, but I'm driven by something else other than that. And so I followed what I knew was true to my heart, what I wanted to do, and I don't regret it at all.
That's good. Hold on, my computer is acting a little funny for a second. Okay, I think I'm back. So you were a civilian, an educated civilian when you entered. You did your time. How was the transition going back to being a civilian when it was time to get out?
It was fine. I think I'm pretty easy at like just knowing what I need to do and just doing it, even if it's uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And so I got out. I was working, excuse me, on my master's degree and started my personal training business. So I started seeing some clients because it was easy for me to do that while I was going to school. And I really loved the interactions of working with people and seeing the difference I was able to make with an individual person. And I get to see that versus the big scheme of things. And I just continued doing that. And then once I had my master's, I needed to get my PhD because why not? And so when I was doing my PhD, I had to pick the dissertation topic. And that's really what defined my moment on when I got into menopause research, because I picked menopause as my topic for my dissertation, merging my love for fitness and my love for women's health into both things. And ever since then, I got my degree in 2012. So 2010, I started with the research, and it's what I've been doing ever since, and I love it.
Well, I'm glad. That is good. You see so many displaced veterans, and then you see veterans that are not necessarily happy with their lives and their choices. Um, and so it is very good to hear stories of veterans, and this is one of the reasons why I started this show, to give people an understanding of what it's like to be a veteran, because no two veterans are the same. No two veterans come from the same background, but there is one thing that all veterans have in common. That we're veterans and that we served our country at some
Mhm.
point for some amount of time, and now we're on the other side trying to map out life. Now, I am done with most of my questions, but I do want to ask kind of, how do you feel about what's going on in political leadership right now?
I'm very discouraged. Let's
You
say
are?
that. I am. I don't like what's happening in the military. I'm a little worried about the route it's taking from a women in combat, from a
Hmm.
women's
Hmm.
perspective in the military. I don't like the blank all trans people have to be kicked out even if they've served. I just don't believe. I've served a long time ago, but the military is as rainbow as they come. Like
Yeah.
it's from all we all know people, even if you were before it was don't ask, don't tell, and we all know people that served hidden, and that's sad in any range. But what I was saying earlier, it shouldn't matter where you come from, what your beliefs are, how you live your life, and who you love. If you have a desire to serve your country, the fact that we are able to say, or they are saying, never mind, I'm going to kick everybody out who's been proudly serving and sacrificing their life at sometimes, to just kick them out. I find that disrespectful, and I hate that that's the route that it's taken, especially for the military part, because I think it will be very disruptive to the military cohesion.
Yeah, it is one of those things because well, I don't know how people are treated up under the rules that have recently been taken away. Because I know that, I mean, being in the military is hard, anyways.
Mhm.
I mean, and they already treat people that are other different, whether it's a black woman, a white woman, and anything that's not male
Yeah.
is treated very poorly. So I do have concerns about making sure that people are protected and treated well, regardless of who they are, but
Mhm.
especially if you're serving the country, because if somebody wants to be in the military, I think you should let them be in the military. You be all that you can be, so let them be all that they could be, regardless of what it is that they decide to become. I don't know if it is disruptive on either end, one way or the other. All I know is that I don't want anybody to be treated poorly, bad, and it comes on thick when you're in the military. I know in the army it was, sexual harassment, all types of things you experience. So my heart just goes out to people that decide that decide to serve and then are faced with the troubles that come with serving, regardless of your race, gender, or background. And I just pray that everybody is protected. I have uh I didn't vote for a president. I voted for everything but the president. So I really don't really have too many opinions. I think that, again, sometimes disruption can create change. And honestly, when it comes to this country, I think everything kind of needs to be shaken up. But I think that it needs to be done in a way with respect and where you're considering the people that are going to be affected by the shakeups that are happening.
Yes, I agree. I'm not opposed to change. I'm not opposed to things being shaken up. I am opposed to an immediate removal of rights for people, an immediate scapegoat. I hate what's happening with DEI, that's being used as a scapegoat for all problems that are out there, which really they're not, and that people don't understand what it actually is, and that it's not just a racial thing, that it's not just, lots of people fall under DEI. And the fact
Yeah.
that we're trying to just take away the ability for people to excel that might not have the opportunity otherwise, I just dislike that we're leading with hate, and
Yeah.
we're leading with separation, and we're leading with conflict when we could be leading with something else.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's like I don't mind a good shakeup, but I
Mhm.
don't like when people are being
Targeted.
disrespected, targeted. That's the right word.
Mhm.
Targeted for a selfish reason, to promote something that it has nothing to do with the greater good.
Right.
And I just hate that, this is happening. I see, if I think about just how this affects everyday people, when you have, I have a daughter in elementary school. I don't want her. She's grown up with, kids that are trans, or kids that are on, maybe, I don't know, but I'm sure there are some immigrants that are not legally here. What this will do to, if our kids get to see the violent removal of people just because they are different or because someone decided they no longer deserve to be treated the same way, I'm worried what that will do for that generation, for the younger generation that will see that that's okay somehow, that it's warranted that you can just remove someone that they've known as a person, right? It's just, we're going back into, I mean, racism has always been around, but it's that same treatment of just saying you're less. So therefore we're going to remove you. And now we're going to put everybody, all the white children are going to go back to one school. All the Black and Hispanic children are going to go here. And the trans children don't need education because they don't really count. So it's just, I see that separation. It's just so, to me, it's horrifying for the next generation. I don't want my daughter to see that. And I fear that that is a possibility, that people will come into the school and start removing kids that, what do they do? You know, what did kids do? So I'm worried for that. I just worried for the mental health aspect for our children. I think we are better equipped to deal with this stuff, but I don't think our kids are equipped to deal with what they might be exposed to in the next couple of years. And so I'm just worried for that as well.
I can totally understand. Would you recommend the military to your family?
No, not currently. I wouldn't, no. Just because I mean, the way that it's going right now, as a woman, I wouldn't enter the military now. Just, you know.
Would you have recommended it 2 or 3 years ago?
Yes, I would. Just because I think that there's still, and I'll take that back a little bit. I think there's too many conflicts going on everywhere that don't have a reason necessarily. So I don't know that and no one talks about people still dying in combat. You know, no one talks about it anymore because it's just part of life. They're out there deployed somewhere, and now and then someone dies, and only the families really realize that that's happening. And we're desensitized to it. So I don't know that I would recommend anybody I know to go in unless they really feel strongly about it, because I just don't know that there's a clear mission anymore.
What advice would you give a active duty soldier or a new veteran?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would say that you do have a voice, you do have rights, and make your voice heard. I know that we have a clear structure of hierarchy in the military, which is a good thing, but also at the same thing and the same breath, you have to realize what rights you have. You're not just a number, and so not to get lost in that structure. Because sadly, we do. And in the military, I think it's even a little easier to get lost because you are taught to take orders and to do as you're told, even if it doesn't seem right sometimes. And so I would say to do what's right and to stand up for each other, because you are a team, even if it's not you on the line. And I think that this is an advice that I hopefully will be living by, and that everybody else will. I hope that you don't that you don't see things done wrong to others, and because it doesn't affect you, that you don't stand up and be the voice for them if they don't have a voice. Because I think we'll have more opportunities to be that, like the people, to come together as a nation, to come together as humans. I think there's going to be lots of opportunities for us to really show if we are humans as a one, or if we are divided truly by beliefs, whatever those beliefs may be, right? So
what are your plans moving forward?
I will continue focusing on helping women, as many women as I can, to make it through menopause and midlife, to stay strong, to see it as a new opportunity for growth, for renewal, for reinvention, for adventure. We're much more than our fertility. And comes a lot of liberty and a lot of fun that is still there, but education is the key. So I want women to have a lot more fun in midlife and beyond.
Okay, so if somebody wanted to find you, or follow you on social media, how would they go about doing that?
My website's always a good start. You can sign up for my newsletter. It's Fitness in Menopause. So www.fitnessinmenopause. I also have a website. It's called Dr. Maria Luque. So both of those will get you there. And on Instagram, it's Dr. Maria Luque, and the same on LinkedIn. So if you want to reach out, those are the best ways to get a hold of me.
Oh, and we're going to make sure that we provide you links in the description and section below. So make sure you click the links. Do you have any final thoughts?
Yes, I'm going to repeat myself, but I'm going to leave by saying we are all humans. Let's just be kind to each other. I think if we can do that, then we'll be okay.
I totally agree. It was so great talking to you, Dr. Maria. It was great hearing your story, and I pray that there are veterans and civilians that are impacted by what you have to offer, and that they hear this and they gravitate towards you, because there's so many women that are going through menopause that don't know how to cope, as well as going through menopause and gaining weight, because as you get older, for whatever reason, the pounds just add on, regardless if you do anything different or not.
That is
So
right. I'll be able to help, at least to help with some education.
yes, and that's where it starts though, because when you get educated, you can become disciplined behind what you know, and then
Yeah.
you can change your life. Well,
Yeah.
everybody, thanks again for tuning in to Life of a Veteran, and with Dr. Maria. And I look forward to talking to you all again. Until next time, bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Kaci, Dr. Kaci. Welcome to Speaking Freedom. We are happy to have you, and we hope that we are able to help you in every way possible. Have a good evening.
If you've enjoyed this video, like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. New episode every Friday.